Hello, everybody, and welcome to the post-match podcast brought to you by the Liverpool Echo's Blood Red podcast in association with our sponsors, NordVPN. It's been a dismal night for Liverpool in the Europa League, where they have been embarrassed by Atalanta, losing 3-0 at home in the first leg of the quarterfinals. It's going to be a massive arse now if they'd stand any chance of progressing in the competition, having to go to Italy and not only win, but win comfortably. You'd imagine this is the end of Jurgen Klopp's European reign as Liverpool manager, the last Anfield European night, and it's not a fitting end. Liverpool got what they deserved. They were poor from start to finish, and there's not really any positives you can take from it, are there, Addison?
No, not really. That's the strangest thing about it, really. I think we've seen at times this season Liverpool have had one or two positions that have maybe not quite clicked. I think it was understandable, for instance, that Kostas Tsimikas looked a little bit rusty. He's not played a great deal of football. I think the only 90 minutes he's played in 2024 was against Southampton in the FA Cup. He's had a few appearances apart from that, but aside from him, there's not really anybody with any mitigation for that performance. There's no real explanation front to back. Kelleher probably should have done better with the first goal. Didn't really look particularly confident with his feet, and from him all the way through to the number 9, Darwin Núñez was very, very quiet. Everybody from front to back really just had an off night for Liverpool, and I think Atalanta will probably be disappointed that they haven't gone and scored one or two more. Right in the first few minutes there was virtually an open goal that was missed, and that kind of set the tone, really. Liverpool absolutely deserved to get beat by 3 goals. It could quite easily have been more, which I don't think anybody was expecting that, and probably Atalanta as well. You can hear their fans in the background, I'm sure, as they celebrate the victory. But I think that's the scariest thing for me from tonight, is that 3-0 probably flatters Liverpool a bit, which is quite alarming, I would say.
Yeah, if you look at Liverpool's chances here tonight, Harvey Elliott hit the crossbar, the post with the same shot. Darwin Núñez missed an absolute sitter when 1-on-1 put through by Curtis Jones. If he scores that, it's a different game. And then there's a couple in the second half where Salah's got like a shot blocked, or Gakpo's gone close to something like that. But Liverpool never looked like really getting in control of this game. They looked tired from start to finish. Obviously, Klopp made 6 changes to his starting 11, and it looked like a team that had 6 changes made to it. The players that started were tired. They were sluggish. The players that came on, obviously, back from injury or were put on the bench because they were tired and sluggish. So it was just a horrible combination there. It also looked like a team that dropped points at the weekend against Manchester United and felt demoralised, knowing that's probably the Premier League on if they play like this again and again and again. So considering a few weeks ago they were dreaming of a quadruple, are we now looking at a season where the League Cup is all they're going to have to show for it, or can they bounce back from this? Can this be rock bottom that can spur them on for the remaining weeks?
Yeah, you'd like to think so. I mean, I think the fact that it was such a collective thing, it wasn't like there was individuals who were worse than anybody else. I find it difficult to do player ratings on nights like this, because you try and pick out who was the worst of the bunch. It's really, really difficult to pick on anybody in particular, because they were all just, all off it all at the same time. So I think that gives you a little bit of hope that possibly Liverpool could, bounce back and show something a little bit different. But it just felt to me like right from the start they were a little bit lethargic. This wasn't a typical Anfield European night in terms of the atmosphere, and the whole sort of feel around the game just didn't quite fit the occasion that it is. And obviously it's the Europa League, but Liverpool have still got to go and put in performances. They haven't, and they've been absolutely hammered. So I think that's a collective disappointment as well. Anfield wasn't at it, and is that because of the performance, or is the performance part of that? You can argue it either way around. I think both have got to help each other in terms of that, but it just didn't really feel like a proper European night. It started badly for Liverpool. They weren't really able to turn it around. There was a couple of moments where, as you mentioned, Elliott hits the bar and the post, and that kind of raised things for a little while. We had, Diogo Jota and Luis Diaz and Mohamed Salah and all of the big names warming up. That kind of got a little bit of a cheer, but it wasn't, a typically loud European night for Liverpool. Even when those players came on, it wasn't like, they made a huge amount of difference. It just was more of the same, really. It was lethargic. It didn't really feel like they were going to create much. And obviously defensively, they were just far too open. There was, a zigzag of a back line where they're playing people on left, right and centre. There was more chances, I think, for Atalanta to have scored more goals than what they did. So, it feels a bit stupid to say it, really, when they've just come to Anfield and won 3-0. But I didn't think they were particularly anything massively special. I don't think they came here and absolutely played Liverpool off the park. It was just Liverpool were so poor in all departments that they just gave them the opportunities, really. It was one of those where you could you could see Liverpool putting in a performance and making a game of it next week. But, you know, three goals behind. If the second leg was at Anfield, maybe you'd give them a bit more of a hope. But I'd be very surprised if they went through from here. And that is a real shame. As you say, it probably is Jurgen Klopp's last European night at Anfield. And it was probably the worst one he's ever overseen, I would say.
Yeah, the only one that comes close is how the Champions League ended last year, Real Madrid, and that was another game where they had a 3-goal deficit in the first leg going into the second leg away from home, and there was never any chance of them turning it around there. But this Liverpool side, it was a lot different to that one we saw 13, 14 months ago. You expect more from them, and it is just another case of probably the injuries have taken their toll on the players. Like Endo, we know he had a knock last week, which is why he missed the Sheffield United game, didn't he? And he was probably rushed back from Manchester United a little bit. And I thought that was one of the worst game we've seen from him in a long, long time. He was slow to everything. He was giving it away, but he wasn't the only one by any means. Like, you can look at all three of the goals they conceded tonight and there are individual errors involved. Like Kelleher, he lets the first one squirm under his body. It's similar to one Gini Wijnaldum scored against Barcelona all those years ago. The second one, I have no clue what the defence are doing there. They've obviously tried to have a line to play someone offside, got it wrong, but that's the one who's out wide putting the cross in. And then they've just conceded a striker, Scamacca, in the middle, and they just leave him to it. It's utterly atrocious defending. And the third one, it is dreadful. Szoboszlai, who actually started well when he came on, didn't he? He did show a little bit of life. He got forward well, but then it is the worst attempted lazy back pass to Ganate, who just gives it too much to do. One-on-one, Keller gets down well, makes a good save, but it's an easy rebound for Pasalic to score. And you look at the other chances Atalanta have had, it could have been 6. Like, Keller has made 2 really good saves, hasn't he? There's the one in the first half with his face. He's made another one-on-one in the first half as well, didn't he? And then Scamacca's had the header in the second half where he's inside that 6-yard box and he somehow headed over the crossbar. Well, these are big, big chances Atalanta have wasted here. And this must be one of the best nights in their history. And it's just not what we've seen from Liverpool all this season. They haven't looked this toothless in a long, long time. And maybe it's just a case of they've had injuries, they've had to keep going again and again and again, and it's a game too far, like we said about the Manchester United FA Cup defeat. But then also maybe it is confidence as well. Maybe it's they thought they could go and win more trophies, but they don't quite have the experience enough over the pitch. And there's a lot of emotion in these games as well. When you know the stakes riding on it with Jurgen Klopp leaving at the end of the season, like we've been saying after games when they've had to drag it over the line, there's too much riding on this too early on. They're not in control of it. And it just all came to head tonight with a dismal performance and a dismal defeat. There's not really much more you can say, is there? There's no positives you can take apart from the fact Diogo Jota's back. But Jurgen Klopp probably wouldn't have wanted to put him on the pitch tonight. It would have been, we're 3-0 up. Let's give him 5-10 minutes at the end so he can ease him back in. Not, we're chasing a game here, go and get me a goal when you've not played for over 2 months.
Yeah, and I think you could see that, to be fair, when he came on. He put the ball out of play for a throw-in at one point. He wasn't able to change it, but clearly it isn't on him. It wasn't his fault that the rest of the team was so lethargic. And I think defensively, that is the big concern, really. If you're looking at what Liverpool do in the Premier League, it'd be really interesting to see what the performance is like on Sunday against Crystal Palace. You look at just the lethargy, really, the lack of urgency, the lack of sort of sharpness, really. Some of the passing, I think Canate put one out for a throw-in in the first half. I'm pretty sure Joe Gomez did it once or twice. Certainly gave the ball into midfield, into dangerous areas, and gave it away. It's basic things, really. I don't know whether it's maybe a mental fatigue, maybe it's a physical thing, like you say. Maybe there's just too many matches, and maybe just one too many players who've just come back from injury and had to play themselves into it. I think that can be the only explanation for Kostas Tsimikas, and obviously it's a delicate balance because he's had 45 minutes where he was really poor, but the only way that he's going to get better is by playing and getting into that rhythm. I think that's the same for Jota. I think Szoboszlai has kind of looked a little bit better in terms of his performances since he's come back from injury at times, but then he's had 1 or 2 performances like tonight where he was just really poor and miles off where he should be. So it's tricky, really, to know exactly why it was, and therefore, how do you rectify that? How do you start to put things into place? But to me, it wasn't a case that they were overly confident coming into the game. It just was one of those nights. It didn't quite happen for them. It started badly. the momentum shifted. I don't think Atalanta really created much. It was more a case of Liverpool gifting those opportunities to them. I think they only had 11 shots in the game. It felt like a lot more, but I suppose that's because each of those shots was, 6 or 7 yards out. It was a ball into the box, or it was, a player being unmarked. Like I think it was for the second one where they beat the offside basically, and Liverpool just don't bother picking up those players with the marking. It's hard to fathom quite how it can have fallen apart quite as quickly as it did for Liverpool, but maybe it can be rebuilt by the weekend. Maybe that is just a bit of a shot in the arm that they need for the last few games. I think the one thing we can say for sure is if they play like that in any of the last 7 Premier League games, they've got absolutely no chance of doing what they need to do. They need to be perfect. They need to be 100%. Even that, might not be enough depending on what Arsenal do, but I think Arsenal and Manchester City will have been looking at this tonight and thinking, well, I'm not sure Liverpool can go and win 7 out of 7 if they do anything like that. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens against Crystal Palace. In terms of the analysis from tonight, I think that's basically what we have to wait for. If they can bounce back and they can put in a performance and show that this was a one-off, then fair enough. But otherwise, I think the chances of this season starting to peter out suddenly become a lot bigger than what we thought they were going to be.
And when you put it on the title race as well, we've seen Man City trail to Real Madrid at the Bernabeu this week. We've seen Arsenal trail at home to Bayern Munich at the Emirates this week, and they've still both got a share of the spoils against much tougher opposition in much higher stakes. We know how well those two teams are playing at the moment. We know the confidence they've got, whereas Liverpool, they just seem to be on the edge. Maybe now they have tipped over the edge. And it's hard to see how you can pick it up, because Klopp said in his pre-match yesterday, Sunday to Thursday, it's not the worst turnaround for preparations. You get time on the training pitch, and that's part of the reason why we've seen Jota be able to be involved tonight, Trent on the bench, Basetic on the bench, because they've had 2 training sessions. But to go from Thursday to Sunday, where they're going to have one recovery day, this is what we're doing for the weekend, and then it's match day.
Yeah.
It is a massive ask. Like, you're not going to get much training sessions there. Like, Curtis Jones was subbed at half time, and that's his first start since he's coming back from injury. He looked like a player coming back from injury. Like we heard last year, it took Liverpool to get knocked out of Europe to get him back to form, because he needed those training sessions to get that rhythm. And Klopp, it's his go-to word, isn't it? Getting rhythm in these players. And when Liverpool got so many players now who look like they don't have the rhythm, it's a massive ask to turn it around for the weekend and then to go to Italy next week and get those 3 goals. Like, the one positive optimism you can get from it is Liverpool put 5 past them last time they went there, but that was a very different prospect. That was behind closed doors, no fans there at all. I actually think Atalanta's travelling support is the worst we've had in the Europa League this season, but that's because all the other teams that have come here, it has been the biggest game in their history. They're up for it that little bit more. They're just enjoying their away day, but they were really vocal come the end of it when they're getting this massive victory. You just know it's going to be a very different atmosphere in Italy. So intimidating in Bergamo, as it always is in those sorts of European away days. And they look good merit now to progress, maybe go all the way to the final against Bayer Leverkusen. It will take a mammoth comeback. Like we saw Barcelona, one of the greatest nights in Liverpool's history, but that was here at Anfield. To do it away from home is a different ask entirely.
Yeah, I think Liverpool can do it for sure, but they're going to have to play 100 times better than that. They're going to have to show a level of clinical finishing that they just haven't shown for a number of weeks now. They didn't really create too many chances. I mean, we mentioned the Harvey Elliott one. That was from the edge of the area. It might have been just inside the box, but it wasn't exactly a clear-cut opportunity. There was not really loads of things for Liverpool to be positive about. Diogo Jota clearly is a positive that he's back, but like you say, how quickly is he going to get back into that rhythm? I think he's probably, I would say, similar to Curtis Jones, where if he does have a bit of an injury, it's not that long since he went a year without scoring, isn't it? Where he had a big injury, couldn't quite get back into the rhythm, didn't quite manage to get back straight away. I think what it needs is a fast start on Sunday against Crystal Palace. If Liverpool start really well, they show a bit of intensity, they get the crowd up, they maybe go a goal up in the first 10 minutes on Sunday, suddenly things can look very different. The momentum can swing the other way, but I think that's what it's going to take, to be honest, from this position. Liverpool need to do the opposite of what they did tonight for the first 10 against Palace, put a bit of a marker down and go from there. But yeah, it was worrying, I think, to watch, but let's sort of reserve the harshest of critics for Sunday. If they do the same again, then they really are in trouble. But for tonight, possibly might have been a one-off.
I was going to ask you for a NordVPN man of the match, but there's no point there. I don't think there's anyone we can even justify giving it to. Cody Gakpo started brightly, but then was awful for 70 minutes or whatever. But then so was everyone else. Like, it's the worst we've seen McAllister play for a number of weeks. Endo, as I've already mentioned, Gomez, who it seemed every single time the ball came to him, his first touch was trapping it 6 yards in front of him and then having to scramble to get it back. Konate wasn't much better. Van Dijk struggled against their forwards. He didn't have them control. Like Kelleher, he's at fault for a goal, even if he saves on a couple more. You can go through that whole team and go, what has happened there?
I'd probably go McAllister just about. But I mean, that was a 6 out of 10 at best, wasn't it? Really, from him, that was as good as it got for Liverpool. I think there was a couple of moments where he gets the ball and manages to spin and play a ball forwards. But I mean, we're clutching at straws there, aren't we? If we're talking about that as being, you know, the one positive really for Liverpool, it doesn't really say a great deal about it. The only real positive was that Diogo Jota is back. But other than that, I mean, yeah, we're struggling really, I think.
I can give you one more positive, I suppose. If the Europa League adventure does end here, this is the last Europa League match we're going to have to watch at Anfield for at least a year. Champions League football is on the verge of being back next season, but Liverpool will have to be a lot better than this in the competition next year. But then it's going to be very different next year. A new manager, maybe some new signings as well. Yeah, it's not really many positives you can take from tonight beyond Diogo Jota's back. God knows what Jurgen Klopp's saying to him in that dressing room downstairs. We'll need to log off pretty quickly now so we can get down to his press conference to hear what he's got to say to us, the gathered media downstairs. But it'll be one of his more interesting ones because he won't have had many nights like this at Anfield, a European night where Liverpool were favourites and just didn't show up. We'll be doing more reaction to this one tomorrow with your normal Blood Red podcast and all the normal post-match bits from Doyley Gorsty and the rest of us. And then it's looking ahead to Crystal Palace, where, fingers crossed, Liverpool are a lot better because they need to be. If this is the sign of things to come over the next few weeks, then you're writing off your season now. It's ending in April. Hopefully, this is just a blip. Hopefully, this is out the system now. And the performance we've been asking for weeks, where they just blow away a side, is around the corner. They've done it against Crystal Palace before. Maybe, just maybe, it is around the corner again. Thanks for tuning in. We have been live on Facebook and on YouTube. I'll put a few of your comments up if you're watching live. I'm sure you can go back and watch them on the stream as well. We'll be putting this up on our normal places to listen to your podcasts, on like Apple and on Spotify, so you can listen back to it as well if you want to put yourself through such torture. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsors, NordVPN. And hopefully next time we do one of these, it is a lot more positive. I've been Theo Squires. This has been Matt Addison. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.